The next exercise consists of two separate ways of drawing with the same subject. This is how you learn how to manage your shading. I think you all know the edge, the outline. You're pretty good at your proportions, but now we really need to get good at the shading. If you make the gradations from 0 being white to 10 being black on a separate piece of paper, we're going to tackle a very simple object, and we're going to use the viewfinder, and I will give that to you. So let's go and let's look at the demonstration how we're going to do this. As you can see in this drawing that was behind me, I use hatching and cross-hatching to make gradations in value. Now you can also do that with a softer pencil or a harder pencil. I tackled this a little bit last week, but let's look at the tools that we have. There's many different pencils. Look at what you have. An HB is an F, and then you have the gradations from B to 2B to 4B to even 8B. Let's first look at some hatching and cross-hatching up close. And we're going to make a grayscale. And I want you to divide a piece of paper into 10 squares of almost an inch, 1 by 1 inch, and get two different pencils. An HB, this is an HB, and a much softer one, a 4B or a 6B. But you can really make the grayscale with whatever you have handy, even if you only use one pencil, one gradation, one hardness of pencil. So I have here 10 squares. And whenever you have special materials, take the time to make a grayscale or a color scale, or just to get a feel of what your material is doing. So we have 0 and we have 10. Now we put lines one next to another, and I do it pretty fast, but take your time if you've never done this before, because the more meticulous you are, the more you are in control. And then after we put all the lines next to one another, one direction, we go to another direction on top of it, which is cross-hatching. And then we still can make a variation of yet another direction. Now the room between the pencil strokes is getting smaller and smaller. I am not putting more pressure on it, but you can do that too. With adding pressure, you can make it darker. I have not done that yet. So the gradations really are completely in your control. And with the next example, and you can do this with a micron too, by the way. And then here I get a much softer pencil. I actually think I skip a step here. I think you can do better than I am, but you get the idea. We hatch, we cross hatch. Now we have a softer pencil. It's so much darker already, and I'm not putting more pressure on it. If I would put more pressure on it, it would be even darker. Now, in the last phases, I am putting a lot of pressure on it because I want to reach this number 10 blackness. If I talk about values from 0 to 10, and I do that a lot, then I'm talking exactly about this. You can number it the way you want, but you know that the middle value is the number 5. And the lightest light is where nothing is. It's just paper. And the darkest dark is just 10. And I want you to learn these gradations on an object that is round, so you can create that roundness. Now for number 10, I'm putting a lot of pressure on my pencil. And because it is a soft pencil, it really goes to completely black. And you always want to have this range to make an interesting drawing. Let's look let's look at it a little bit up close on this still life of an apple and a plate. That's the hatching and cross hatching step by step. And this is what I want you to do today with a pencil. But first, let's look at the viewfinder. I all gave you a viewfinder, and we're going to make a drawing with that. The inside of the viewfinder is meant to, as a template, to make exactly the same grid on your piece of paper. And that is exactly the same is very important, because otherwise it doesn't work. You will see how it works once you follow these steps. You don't necessarily need a ruler. You can do it by the side of the template itself, but that's okay. Then, as soon as you have this ready, you tone the paper. See, now it's exactly the same. That's what we want. With the side of your pencil, you're going to tone the whole paper. So you make it gray and then you smudge it. It doesn't show here in the video, but I will show you how that goes. Now we're going to put the viewfinder on our hand and we close one eye. And then we're going to make an outline of everything we see. Everything. Everything. It moves, but you can always bring it back to the point where you first started it. Balance it. It can be a little bit annoying, but don't get aggravated by it. It's not a big deal. So once you have done that, you're going to remove the viewfinder from your hand and going to put it down on a piece of white paper. I'll take care of that. We have small apples. Okay, this is now your hand with the apple. Now you're going to put it upside down and you're going to copy exactly the image, the lines that you have. Be very meticulous with everything you do. If you make a mistake, you erase it, and square by square, you exactly copy the line as you have it. Upside down. Then eventually you have the whole drawing copied on your piece of paper. Now we're going to keep the hand and the apple handy, and we're going to tone the whole paper. And I see you do this a lot with when you want to shade. Hatching and cross hatching is a lot better because you have more control. But before that, we can do it like this too to get some kind of shading going. So we tone it and then we smudge it with a paper towel. Now we get rid of the grid lines, and we're going to fine-tune the dark parts. So you squint, and then you're going to add darker, what you see as darker with it. The toning will help us to bring in the highlights. So now we're 50% grayscale, basically. We don't have to do everything. We're now going for the darkest dark and the lightest light. And the lightest light we can erase. Be very observant of what I do. It looks like I'm not lifting the paper, but that's not true. I have sharpened my pencil and I hatch and crosshatch. And I'm 100% in control of what's going on. Now I go a different direction, but it's very fine, and you can do that too. I go in the direction of the apple to give it an extra round feeling, but here we're going already to the darkest dark, hatching and cross-hatching. This is just hatching. If I go over it with a different direction, it automatically becomes darker. Is it the darkest I can get? Probably not, but we'll do that later. Here's a soft edge because the apple actually disappears a little bit in the dark of the palm of my hand. The side of my hand is also very dark. Here I go with the lines, with the direction of the creases of my hand, which gives that, again, a round feeling, just like the apple also gets that round feeling. I perceive this as the darkest dark. This is the number 10 darkness. But to soften that, I put a number 8 or 9 darkness almost next to it. So now I soften the value into the rounding of the apple. And so you're going to do this with everything inside of your hand, what you see, hatching and cross-hatching. Sharpen your pencil. If you want to go darker and you have an HB, use 4B or 9B if you have it, but don't start with it because it's hard to erase. You don't want to have that. So let's get going. Let's start. You grab the apple and the viewfinder and make the outline.